Seismic 7, Chapter 16, Part 1. What the heck? I hear Kinsey ask. Fee, go check on that, Styles says. Fee flips on his headlamp. Then it shatters as someone clubs him in the head. What the? Styles begins, but then he's hit too. Son of a! Neither of them are struck hard enough to be knocked out, but the blows are enough to make them both stumble about and cry in pain. Come on, I hear a voice say from several pods down. Someone's door swings open. For a brief moment, I think it might be Miss McNamara as some sort of triple agent. But then the next door opens and the mystery voice is closer, and I realize it's not a woman's voice. It's a boy's. Get him! Styles yells, finding Nolan in the light of his headlamp. Fee dives after him, but Raquel and Eddie are both loose now and each jump on one of them. I can only make parts of the fighting out, but then another door swings open and I realize Nolan must have gotten free from the men to bust the next person out. Unfortunately for Mr. Styles and Mr. Fee, the next person is Kinsey. I'm going to rip your faces off, she hollers, grabbing a rock off the cavern floor and leaping into the fray. Everyone's shouting in the dark now, Todd trying to tell them to be careful, Wyatt trying to direct them how to fend off the men, and me trying to cheer them on. I hear a whimper, and I realize that Raquel's been hit bad. Nolan unlocks the last 3 pods, including my own, and I leap out. Raquel! I call, looking for any sign of her. There, on the floor, not far from me, I can just make out her outline in the flashing, twisting light from Mr. Styles' headlamp. I run toward her. She clutches at her stomach, rolling to one side. Stay still, I say. She winces and nods. I turn, trying to figure out where in the fight I'd be most useful. But then, bang! Someone shot a gun. Everyone stops. Styles turns to face Wyatt, who stands with a gun aimed at the mess of people on the cavern floor. I don't know whose gun he shot, Styles or Fee's, but Fee is buried under Nolan, Todd, and Eddie, and Styles doesn't look like he's ready to reach for anything, so I'm guessing it's Styles. Kinsey is on his back, wrapping her arms around his neck in a chokehold. Okay, Wyatt says. He aims the gun at Styles. You, get in a pod. Styles, who is struggling to breathe, glares. Spittle drips from his mouth. I'm not messing around here, Wyatt says, stepping forward. I live in Texas. My dad's taken me to gun ranges. I know what I'm doing. Pod, now. Fee tries to lunge forward, but Nolan, who is sitting on top of his back, holds on tighter. Todd helps Nolan push Fee back down, and the man's face slams into the rocky cave floor. Fee grunts, rolling to one side and clutching at his nose. Eddie, who had been on him too, grabs for Fee's gun. Shaking, Eddie stands up, aiming it at Fee despite looking really uncomfortable. My mom would kill me if she could see me right now, he mutters. Don't make me use this. Fee and Styles both back up toward the pods. Kinsey releases her chokehold on Styles and drops to the ground. That's it, Wyatt says, far more calm about this than Eddie. Into the pods. They each climb into one, grumbling. Fee still clutches his nose, which is gushing blood, much like the cut on his forehead under his bashed headlamp. I take the chance to help Raquel to her feet. I'm all right, she reassures me. Just got the wind knocked out of me. Nolan locks Mr. Styles and Mr. Fee into the pods that used to contain Kinsey and Eddie. It is a tight fit for them, even without the equipment stored in there. They're crammed, smushed against the bars, both bent over. Todd takes Styles' headlamp and brings it over to us. Nolan moves to join our little circle. Not so fast, Kinsey says, stomping up to Nolan's face and glaring. The lights are still out, but I can see Todd wince, thanks to the headlamp he's holding. What's your deal? What are you doing? Why are you here? Nolan whistles, and the lights pop back on. His 2 ferrets both bounding out from around the cavern's edge and climb right up his legs into the hood of his sweatshirt. Did your ferrets just turn the lights on? Wyatt asks in awe. I blink in the sudden brightness. Yeah, Nolan answers, giving them each a small treat of some sort from his jean pockets. Eddie looks impressed. While cool, very cool, Don't care right now, Kinsey says. What are you doing? Seriously, I agree. We've had way too many side switches. You'd better have a real explanation here and one we can trust. I'm playing the only card I had going for me, Nolan replies. Baxter pokes his head out of the sweatshirt hood, looking for more treats. You have no idea how long I've had to pretend to agree with my aunt's plans. I'm throwing it out now, because we have to get to the eruption site and stop them from sinking the receivers. The receivers? I ask. For what? For the bombs. He turns to me. Your tunnels aren't the only things set to explode. Miss McNamara had me working at the site where they want the first eruption to happen. Not drilling, like you. Just weaving a net of explosives from the surface down toward where your tunnels are. That's what's going to create the real exit spot for the magma. We have to catch up and stop them, and I can't do it alone. Wyatt sets the gun down and readjusts the layers of socks that his prosthetic fits over. Last time we helped someone do something that was supposedly for good, we just made things worse, he says, pulling his prosthetic back into position. How's this supposed to be any different? Exactly, I say. Even though my mind is already running with the tidbit of information we finally got about what Nolan has been doing this whole time. Look, Nolan says, I get it. I have no idea how to make you trust me. Maybe because I sprung you out? What more do you want from me? Come on, guys, Eddie says, stepping to stand closer to Nolan. I believe him. We all exchange glances. Raquel gives Eddie an exasperated look, but he doesn't notice. Please, Nolan begs. I suck at people things. I have no idea how else to convince you, but we really can't waste time. Nolan, I say slowly, I think I have a way to test him. What would you say if I said we should go call for help? Get some adults here to handle this instead of kids. Help sounds like a really good idea, Nolan agrees. They must have phones back at the camp. Let's check on our way out. My stomach knots unfurl. Someone who is actually in favor of calling for outside help. Finally. I think we can trust him, guys, I say. Even Miss McNamara couldn't come up with a scheme that has this many double crosses. Raquel regards me. In turn, Eddie watches her, holding his breath. Okay, she eventually says. I give her the giantest look of thanks I can muster. She really doesn't have to trust my instincts after I failed her with Miss McNamara. Meanwhile, Eddie gives Raquel a solid relieved nod. Raquel smiles at him, and I realize with a small degree of embarrassment that maybe Raquel isn't just trusting my opinion about Nolan. I'm with Bree on this too, Kinsey says, but I've got my eye on you, buddy. Todd? Wyatt? I turn to the other boys. Todd looks hesitant, but nods. Wyatt does the same. Then Wyatt picks the gun near him back up. He and Eddie drop both guns into the extra cement sludge, where they sink slowly into the gunk. We head back to camp, leaving Styles and Fee locked up. Wyatt kicks some rock dust at them on his way out, and they shout some nasty remarks back at him. So how did you train those ferrets to do the lights thing? Kinsey asked, following into step with Nolan as we walk. Baxter and Buggy have won several awards, Nolan says, straightening up like a proud father. Eddie jogs up to walk with Nolan and Kinsey. Ferrets are very smart, you know. I have them trained to follow certain commands. It's why my aunt wanted me here. She needed Buggy and Baxter to maneuver through animal burrows and cracks underground to lay a bunch of explosives. Can ferrets do something that complicated? I ask. Baxter and Buggy won the National Ferret Agility Awards 2 years ago. It's like a huge obstacle course challenge where ferrets have to thread string the whole way, Nolan replies. Once upon a time, ferrets were used to run wiring in airplanes and buildings. That's so cool, Eddie says. Why'd people stop using them for that stuff? Because ferrets sleep 18 hours a day, Nolan answers. They'd pass out on the job and not get it done. Buggy and Baxter do that from time to time, too, but not as much as some people's. I've got them well trained. My parents never really liked it, though. They barely ever came to any of my competitions. Try to imagine my own parents sitting and watching their kid whistle and clap for two small furry creatures as they weave through pipes on stage somewhere. Anyway, Aunt Sam always did. She was the only one who seemed to care about my hobby. In hindsight, I know why. When she kidnapped me and brought me out here, she had me use Buggy and Baxter for her creepy plan. Nolan continues. You know those tunnels you built? The beta tunnels? Wyatt asked. Yeah, Nolan replies. Well, if you add up the full distance the alpha tunnels run, those beta tunnels are actually located over a mile south of this cave. And straight up from them, way above the alpha tunnel, there's a smaller series of cracks through the earth that are way too tiny for drills, just big enough for ferrets. That's where Buggy and Baxter worked. I sat above ground and they ran down animal burrows, finding cracks off of them to thread explosives through. When your beta tunnels burst, Aunt Sam will also blow up the web they made. It'll be like an explosion sandwich, Kinsey says, her eyes widening. The alpha tunnel is the peanut butter. Our beta tunnels are the bread on the bottom. And the network your ferrets ran is the bread on top. Sure, Nolan says, if that makes sense to you. The pressure drop from above will not only cause a nice big exit path for the magma, it'll also collapse what remains of the roof of the bedrock. Wyatt realizes that'll really get the eruption started. And after that eruption goes, the supervolcano is basically inevitable. I think back to Miss McNamara's slides. Once there's an exit for even a small amount of lava, it's only a matter of time before the supervolcano blows. It's a constant feedback loop of pressure drops. As mass is ejected through an initial eruption, space is cleared underground for more froth and bubbles to form, and that encourages more erupting. It'll build until the underground chamber has a catastrophically huge amount of magma, and then boom. How did they get you to do all of this? Todd asked. Were you lied to at first, too? Not even close, Nolan says. They made me wear a vest filled with explosives for the first couple of months. Even Buggy and Baxter had some rigged into their harnesses to make sure I'd do exactly what they asked. My hand covers my mouth. I nearly trip over a rock as we walk. Your own aunt? But then I started to play a game, Nolan continues. I pretended that they were winning me over and that I was interested in being one of the survivors in their new world. Aunt Sam began to trust me slowly. Miss McNamara took longer, though, so she often insisted I stay locked up, which is when I'd be thrown back in with you guys. Nolan gestures at Eddie and Raquel. But I kept up the act, and eventually Miss McNamara bought it. She even gave me a tablet as a present for keeping my mouth shut when you four showed up. Now, he nods at me. Wyatt, Kinsey, and Todd. What you have to understand is that they really believe what they're doing is the right thing, and they think others will believe it too. The other adults here agree with them. Why not a kid like me, or you guys? It's why you're not dead yet. Oh my goodness, I say, a thought hitting me. Yeah, Greer and McNamara have absolutely no idea how wrong they are, Kinsey says. No, not that. Well, yes, but that's not what I meant. I stare at Nolan as we reach the camp. Your tablet. What about it? Nolan asks. Baxter climbs out of his hood and scoots down his sweatshirt to move into the front pocket. Buggy follows suit. We could search all we want for our phones, but they don't work, and I'm willing to bet it's not because we don't get signal. They must have blocked them somehow, I say as the group gathers around me.